Awesome.
Okay, we are live. Thank you so much for taking out some time.
Thank you for having us.
Tami and Greg, this is a real honor. I've been excited for this film now for a few months, and I finally had a chance to see it, and it is fantastic. And I'm excited to ask you a couple questions, if that's cool.
Sounds good.
Great.
All right, so let me start with you, Tami. Right, so after working as the Childlike Empress from NeverEnding Story, everyone knows that. What kind of drew you back into acting for this role? Like, what, locked it in for you?
Well, something that maybe people don't know is that I had a dance career in New York, but I was constantly sneaking into plays. And I was actually in a theater company for 7 years. And then my husband and I, who's an actor, obviously started to make plays for family audiences. So I was not really ever not acting. I was constantly acting. I was just always doing it in smaller productions and on stage. In the digital age, if it isn't on video, it didn't happen,
Sure.
it was happening. And so the big change was just like, should we try to make a film? And so that was a little bit of a nudge from my husband, who felt like the zeitgeist was right. There was all this 80s nostalgia, Stranger Things had the Lamal song, there were Falcor.
No, but it was more than that. It's more than that. It's
okay.
that you're an actor. You've always been an actor, right? You for all the reasons, like you left Hollywood as a younger person, but that you weren't like, I don't want to be an actor. You were like, I don't need some of the rest of it. So, and that was always been clear because you were always acting on stage and performing. So I was like, okay, if you want to do it, let's do it. No one can stop us, right? We're free to do our own thing. So
so he was like, let's do it, but let's do it on our own terms. And I was like, well, that sounds kind of good.
I love it. That's so fun. So let's say, like, Greg, for you, obviously you were also credited as a screenwriter for the film, right? So what would you say, and obviously you co-star as well, what would you say was the most challenging aspect for you on this project?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. So first of all, it wasn't necessarily the writing. Like that was pretty fast. We had this idea for a story, and it put it on Post-its on the wall, and that came out pretty quick. So that was obviously you do a lot of rewriting after that and make sure it's producible and stuff. But we were really surprised at how quickly the story got onto the page, and then really surprised that we got some great cast in there too. I think the hardest part to be, this is maybe kind of a boring answer, but the hardest part is now. This is the hardest part.
Sure, that makes sense.
Well, we're not, we don't have studio marketing budget. We have Tami and Greg and some really hardworking people who work for us, but it's an independent project. So it's not based on any kind of story where there's already a million fans. We're just like, hey, this is a new idea, a new story based on like, old kind of movie style. So that's the hardest part. It's getting the word out, finding our people and who wants to come see this kind of movie. That's the hardest part, really.
Yeah, no, I agree. That makes perfect sense. Well, that's why I'm also here to help. I'll be spreading the word through my channels. And hopefully we can get the word out that way. So
that'd be great. Yeah, we sort of feel like we made the film and we finished the film and post-production, it's all done. And it's like a marathon, and you see the finish line and then you just get to the ribbon of the finish line. And they're like, oh, but there's another marathon.
That's the start line. That's the start line. You're five years into it and you're like, now's the start line. Yeah.
So it's a huge learning curve, but it's, we're doing it together. And so it's great. Like
we do have great people helping us. It's not that, but it's just hard because we've never done it before. We've never released a film nationally. We're incredibly lucky. We're in 500 theaters or something. It's like incredible, but that's a project of like, how do you get people to find out about it and then want to go to the theaters? And they don't necessarily know a whole lot about it. I mean, obviously you can see it has great cast and stuff, but it takes a lot to get people motivated to go see something in the theaters. So this feels hard.
That's true. I agree. So like obviously husband and wife shooting must have been fun. Two standout scenes for me had to be the flying and some of the dancing scenes. I mean, they must have been a blast to shoot. Am I wrong?
No, not at
No,
all.
no, it was
Not
great.
at all.
The flying we did, I wish I could send you the footage from our living room.
Oh no.
You would die laughing. It's like literally a stick and like Greg and I just like, choreographing
Mobile
it,
phone,
like
selfie,
literally
yeah.
like, what won't this shot work? Like so funny,
Very sophisticated
yeah,
filmmaking.
maybe we'll release that after the film.
I love that sequence. I love that sequence so much because it's super simple, right? It's actually technically not, we're not talking about hundreds of millions of dollars of CGI. We're talking about what they would have done in the 1970s if they had to
Straight-
shoot a broom sequence,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But also, like, I just love physical comedy. Like, that's just sort of like so deep in my DNA of like, people don't do it much anymore, but I think physical comedy is just so fun. And then watching me dance is also physical comedy too, because I'm a terrible dancer and she's like a trained dancer. So that was awesome too. Just phenomenal, right? It's like easy comedy because I literally am trying my hardest to dance and it looks terrible.
At least you admit it. I mean, it's not bad. Trust me. I was enjoying it. So
I have so many skills, but dancing is not one of them. Yeah.
oh my gosh. And
Yeah, so
I mean, yeah, no, I was gonna say so. And how did you guys get, as you called the Michelangelo of the movie posters, Renato Casaro? How did you get, them to do that? This poster. How did that come about?
Well, so first was just having the idea. So we talk a little bit about this actually in the Fathom pre-show. There's a longer sort of description of how this happened.
cool.
So I'll give you kind of the quick hits. So we knew that we wanted sort of a retro style poster, and we just wanted it to feel like an 80s movie poster. And of course, Mike, nobody does that anymore. You don't hand paint movie posters anymore, right? You just don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like an incredible art form, and it's just not one that people are doing much because obviously all the digital technology is so sophisticated. People just faster.
And the digital poster that you have up is gorgeous.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
we love that
nice poster.
too. Yeah, we love it too.
And
we love them
brilliant
both.
artist made that, but we did want a hand-painted 80s style movie poster. So we started looking around and we're like, well, who's doing that? And we met a filmmaker who was making a documentary film on the NeverEnding Story called Life After the NeverEnding Story. And she was like, well, I just interviewed Renato Casaro in Italy.
We'll give you his email.
Yeah. We were like, can we have his email? She's like, sure, here's his email. So he doesn't speak English, but we wrote him an email in English from Tami, obviously, and it was like, hey, Renato, remember me?
I love it.
Yeah, it was great. But his thing is like, if it's interesting to him, he'll do it, right? He loves to paint. It's
He's
not
an
a question of not wanting to paint. So
incredible artist.
he just responded to the material. He loved the idea of like painting Tami again now, that was cool. They got the film, he and his wife. So yeah, that was how it happened. It was just very direct, cold email being like, here's what we want to do. Would you consider it? And he said yes.
We got a lot of things through just cold emails, really.
Wow.
Like this is very, in many ways, we just can't believe the film got made and finished and is being presented in theaters. There's just so many incredible breaks and, really us just like typing on the computer, banging away until some door opened.
Well, okay, but there was one essential sort of ace in the hole that we always had to play, which is it's helpful to be able to write an email that says, hi, it's Tami Stronach who played the Childlike Empress in the NeverEnding Story. Will you read my email? And there's a lot of people are going to read that email. But, for people of a certain generation, you're not going to be like, I don't want to hear from her.
I was freak out. Are you serious? That's
You
awesome.
freak out, right? So we've had some success just, leading with our best face, which is just, hi, it's Tami, would you answer a question for me? So not everybody, but some people are really moved by that. So that's been
I mean, like speaking to that, like you guys got some pretty solid names, including Sean Astin, Christopher Lloyd shows up, Eddie Izzard has a role. How'd you get, this was all just done by just reaching out?
So I'm going to credit two things for that.
Cool.
I really think that the script was just so much fun. Like we got it from some of the sort of a bigger person in the cast, that reading the script was so refreshing. And it was the pandemic, and so there wasn't a lot of work, and so it was just, I think people were just really excited to sign on to a project with a lot of heart, and there wasn't a lot of other things going on. And then our casting director in the UK, Simone Pereira Hind, she cast all the UK components, and she just had a sixth sense about who would be the right person. And so Eddie Izzard, Jennifer Saunders, Bill Bailey, that was all
And all the
her.
local Scottish folks.
And all of the ensemble, which I thought the local Scottish actors were incredible. The King is so funny,
Oh
Stuart
my gosh,
Bowman.
sure.
And he's on Rings of Power. People might not know that. So he's kind of
that's
in that
cool.
fantasy world. Martha West is Dominic West's daughter. I don't know,
Okay.
our princess. So, you know, she's an incredible actress. So yeah,
cool.
we just got really lucky with the cast.
I do think that people want to work on these kinds of movies. I don't think, you know, it's hard to make these kinds of movies because of Hollywood's business model. Actors want to make these kinds of movies. When you get a script that's just like a real script and not just generated by an algorithm or some executives, you know,
Sure.
you want to make those movies. It's just, you know, you got to have somebody like walk it into you and say, hey, can you read? But they had time because it was a pandemic, which was nice.
Well, that all works out. So that's awesome. I love it. So I guess tell us about working with Fathom Events for this theatrical release. It's coming out on July 29th and 30th.
July 28th, actually July 28th.
Oh, July 28th and 30th.
Sunday.
Yes.
Sunday and Tuesday.
Yeah, we wanted to make this as hard as possible. So it's coming out the same weekend as Deadpool Wolverine. That's awesome.
But that'll be in theaters a lot longer, so come see
Yeah.
ours first.
Yeah.
Smart move.
Look, you know, I'm being a little bit funny, but the fact is independent films don't get into the cinemas very often. They definitely don't get a national release very often. So what is that about? Fathom, you know, was doing the NeverEnding Story in their classic series, and they watched Man and Witch, and they were moved by it, and they were like, we think our audiences who like those classic films are really going to like Man and Witch. It was a really good fit. The team there is phenomenal. Like, they're such great people. They're working really, really hard to try to get the word out about it, and it's trailering in front of all these big movies. That said, it's not easy, right? We're as I said, we're a tiny little group trying to tell people about it. We really hope that people will embrace this idea that you should see a family movie with your family in the movie theater, because that's kind of how we used to do it.
Or with your friends,
Yeah,
like
with your friends.
with anyone, you know, just like make it a social event. I'm going to just say the score, Jeff Zanelli, the man who composed the score for it. The score is one of my favorite things about the film, and in a movie theater, it's an orchestra that he recorded. Like, it's just
It's
different.
Great. Yeah, it feels
So
different.
please go see it in the theater.
Absolutely.
But it's also yeah.
Well,
think you
I
should-
got one more. So the title, you know, The Dance of a Thousand Steps, it makes me feel like I would want more to come, like a franchise in mind. What can you kind of spill to us? You know, any thoughts, plans, anything?
You asked the right questions, sir. You asked the right questions. We have 2 sequels in mind.
Okay, cool.
We can also imagine a prequel, but I think it's more important to sort of bring the story forward. And you're right that there's 2 other titles that reflect that same structure. And broadly, it's like courtship, right? What it means to fall in love, then what it means to do the work to be together, right? That's a different journey.
Sure.
That's a journey maybe of 1,000 miles. And
Interesting.
yeah, and so we do have a couple of other films that we'd like to make on the back of this one. If the audience, you know, sort of, if we feel like people really respond to this world, we're ready to go.
That's awesome. You guys are great. I am so excited for this movie. I can't wait to get the word out. I just want to say thank you again for taking out some time.
Thank
And
you.
Our
I will
pleasure.
be sure to spread it as much as I can. So,
That sounds amazing. Thank you so much for the help.
all right, guys, thanks.
Take care.